Kia ora koutou, nau mai, haere mai, and welcome to Mahi Matters, New Zealand's market update. Career regrets are Kiwis rethinking their job choice. So this week we are joined by Craig McAlpine, career coach and founder of MyCareerBrand, to explore the rising tide of career regret sweeping across the country. Are Kiwis quietly questioning their job choices? What's fueling this growing sense of dissatisfaction? And what's holding them back from making a change? Also on today's show, what is the top priority for Kiwi employees in 2025? Of course, we'll explore our latest job opportunities across New Zealand. And lastly, we'll reveal our new social media insights, where we are asking if you feel comfortable asking your boss for time off. So last week, a recent report from Seek revealed that more than half of employees in New Zealand have career regrets. However, only 6% are actively looking for ways to change paths. It's a revealing look into the mindset of the modern workforce, and I guess that surprising gap between dissatisfaction and action. Why are so many Kiwis feeling stuck in their careers, and what's holding them back from making a change? To help untangle this, we're joined today by Craig McAlpine, career coach and founder at MyCareerBrand. Welcome, Craig.
Kia ora, Shannon.
Now, what do you think? I was really surprised to see those stats come out the other week. What do you think are some of the leading reasons that a high number of people have, I guess you could call it buyer's remorse when it comes to their current job or career choices?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, and I'm not sure that it's something new. I think what we're seeing is potentially, and I don't think this was explored in the report, was empowerment. So empowerment for people to start questioning and thinking about, is this career right for me? If we look at it right from the root cause, we've got to think about the conditioning, of people both at school and also as they go through university, and how they've actually got to university in the first place and how they've chosen their career. And a lot of it can be through conditioning, either through parents or peers. And those are at the early stages of career when we're perhaps, the most likely to be either coerced or influenced by those around us. Parents, all well-intentioned, but not necessarily as well-informed as what they are. And universities, in my view, potentially wanting to invest a heck of a lot more, or should be investing a heck of a lot more in the careers of people. So I think it's a number of things. We've got, through the Seek stats or findings that have come out, it's right across all age groups.
Yeah, definitely. I was on RNZ's the panel last week talking about this topic, and it really turned into a bit of it was kind of more of an existential crisis, like, oh, I've got here, how did I get here? Did I listen, did I listen to my teachers back in school, or did I just flow down the path that my parents thought it was a good idea to go down this track? And now I'm going, oh, is this actually what I want to do? I think another thing that comes into it as well is, I guess, that comparison factor, and particularly with social media, you look at people your own age and they've gone off and done something completely different, and of course it looks wonderful, it looks like the right choice when it's on social media, but of course you don't see all the other realities there as well. One of the surprising things I thought was, even though, a large number, or about half of people seem to be dissatisfied, there weren't that many who were willing to do something about it. So why do you think that is? What are some of the barriers from stopping people making a change?
That's a really good question. And anecdotally, what I can only say is what comes across with our own clients at MyCareerBrand. Is that perhaps for a lot of them, it's the first time in their career that they've actually taken the opportunity, to stand back and to, assess where to now. And sometimes that's mid-career, sometimes it's early, sometimes it's late. But if we look at it, the interesting findings of the survey was that money was one of the biggest reasons for people being dissatisfied as to where they are now. But then if you look at the challenges around that, I think that money is also one of the reasons why people are staying where they are now, because of the economic climate that we're in and how that is actually impacting people's confidence in terms of sometimes jumping ship and maybe thinking that actually we're jumping from the frying pan into the fire, better the devil that we know than the devil we don't. So they tend to hold on to that job. Now, will that change, in years to come? At the moment, we've got quite a bit of uncertainty in the market. We all know about that and why that's happening. So I think we're in for without turning this into an economics discussion, we're in for a bit of a rocky road there. And so I think people are going to be actually thinking, is it the right time to actually jump ship now or change or move our career? So I think the other thing is that we don't, as I mentioned before, I don't think we do a particularly good job at enabling people with the tools and the insights and the thinking of how do I actually go about this. If I want to change my career, I don't know that there's any career counselling or career coaching at university level that talks about change, that talks about making decisions, that gets people to think confidently and removing our own self-inhibitors, our own self-inhibiting beliefs, and actually knowing that we can do that. I just came away actually from lunch with a client who actually happens to be taking a sabbatical out. He's sort of like early career. And I said to him, hey, look, think about where you want to be in 10 years. In his case, it was 20 years. Now let's start thinking about what that looks like. What do you want to be doing then? And thinking about in 10 years, so bringing it closer, and we all know how quickly AI has caught up with us, but thinking about in 10 years and then backcasting, where you need to be. When people come and see a recruiter, often it's a linear type, so you'd probably be able to, have a conversation.
Yeah,
it really tends to stay in a linear field. They've got a job ad, it's for an accounting role or a technical role or office support, and they slip straight into that rather than actually stepping back. So, and sometimes I think that just becomes too hard because they don't have the tools. It's why we spent so much time and invested so much in developing these tools for our clients to actually take. When they come to see us, the first thing we say is, why? Why are you wanting to do this? And so I think, to me, to answer your question, I think it's a combination of things. It's probably financial, but then there's the flip side of that. So there's financial, I know what I'm earning now. Do I know that employer? And secondly, it's the wherewithal and the how to actually do it and the condition.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, again, you might have that envy looking at, let's say, a friend who's gone through and they're a partner at a law firm and, great lifestyle, making lots of money, and think, oh, that could have been me if I'd just taken a different path. But again, it's around, yes, the bigger salary might be there, but you don't know all the sacrifices and the extra hours that it took to get there as well. Now, you mentioned earlier that this regret, I guess, kind of spans across all age groups and different industries. It can be common across all of those. But I guess I'm picking that that likelihood to do something about it or to take action probably drops off the older you get, or the more that those barriers seem to be in front of you, whether that's a reality or not. Would you agree with that?
I think there's plenty of research that says that as we age, change becomes more difficult. So the mere thought of actually changing what is our normal day-to-day activity, I think where I had, if I bring it back to myself, for example, I've had quite a non-linear career. So I've made changes throughout my career. Were they as informed, as intentional as they could have been? Probably not. Knowing what I know now, would they have been? Yes. But there was an interesting time, Shannon, in my life where I hopped on that the train, going from Newmarket into the city. and I saw the same people on that train. And, you know, I was sort of mid-career at that stage. And I saw the same people with the same headsets on, with the same books, or maybe a different book this week, but they were doing exactly the same thing. And I thought, gee, we haven't really shifted, have we, from the Egyptian times where we're all marching off to work for the pharaoh. And that was an epiphany moment for me where I wanted to take more control. So, you know, coming back to our, you know, one of the questions you raised is why are only 6%, you know, staying or actually making that move, that transition. I think it's that, and I think the longer we go throughout our career, the longer we leave or divorce ourselves from that control, the more difficult it's actually going to be. So my guidance to people, and I hate to use the word advice because I don't think people like advice very much, but I want what I'd like people to consider is every year or every 6 months, do they do a career stock take? You know, and then what is the value proposition that they have, and what is it that they're looking for? I think if people did that, we'd see more than 6%. Now, employers might not like to see that because that 6% to them means stability. Having said that, we all know too, Shannon, you'll know this, that actually a reasonable turnover of personnel actually brings new ideas. So it's a double-edged sword in a way. So I think that actually there's a number of reasons why people aren't, you know, why it is only 6%. And I think there's a number of reasons why as we age and as people get further into their career, they're less likely to actually make that change. What I would recommend is, and this is not peddling my barrow or anything like that, I don't care who you see. I do care who you see, but I don't care which career coach it is you see, as long as they're qualified and they're able to present multiple, you know, streams and listen and are curious. Actually bring in that third party, that person, and it can't be your spouse. It can be in terms of talking through, but there's an emotional attachment there. And we know that families are dependent upon the breadwinner and so on, so they've got actually interest. But what they don't necessarily understand is that that person that is actually their breadwinner, if they were more engaged in their employee and were fulfilling their potential and playing to their strengths, which are those that we're born with, and their skills, they're probably going to be happier at home too. So, you know, it's like engage that coach and start working on that strategic approach to the market.
Yeah, for the overall improvement. And I think we found that quite a bit through COVID. So, you know, it was a time everything changed and it made a lot of people kind of take a step back. There was time to have a breath and go, actually, is this what I want to do? Or when we're finally out of lockdown and we're allowed to go back, do I want to go back to the office or do I want to go back into this corporate role? And so we did see a lot of change or sea change, sideways moves, going into, you know, side gigs, as well as going into something completely new. But of course, the market has a big effect on that. And as you said, when it's been coming through a challenging market where that job stability is really important, people can be a lot more risk adverse. But as the job market improves, do you think we'll see an increase in the number of people willing to look for new opportunities or new direction?
Yeah, I do. And look, I really do think that employers need to look out for that. And I think it's going to hit quite quickly. I don't think it's something that's going to be gradual. Look, I know we've got a whole lot of what could almost be tsunamis happening at the moment. With when we see what's going on in the geopolitical area, the geo issues around trade and so on. But I think employers do need to be looking out for these, you know, what could be the indicators of change of heart and movement. As one of my team quite rightly put to me, you know, early on, and this wasn't meant in the way that they were thinking of leaving, but it was the realization was we're all volunteers here. We choose to be here. At the moment, we've got tight market situations which are more in favour of employers. What we're going to see is that turns in favour of employees. We'd be very naive to think that that's not going to happen. I guess, you know, it's anybody's guess as to when, but it will. And employers are going to have to start thinking about that. very carefully. I did a survey a little while ago around what were the key things that motivated employees when they were negotiating their remuneration. You know, greater than 80%, 88% of those actually said working from home, so flexibility. And yet we've got employers that are actually saying, we want you back in the office. Well, I think we need to be a bit careful about that. Also, growth is another one. So people are looking for growth. If they can see another organisation which is offering that growth potential, then we've got to start thinking about, you know, how are we actually facilitating that as an employer. So I think we are going to see that, Shannon, coming out of the economic situation that we're in, which seems to be somewhat extended. We are going to see that shift.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your input there, Craig. Now, if you're one of the 50% of Kiwis regretting your career choices, Craig's details for MyCareerBrand are on the screen there. I'm sure he'd love to talk you through some options and get you thinking about what's really important for you. Let's take a look now at our social media poll. Now, we have just launched, literally this week, just launched our 2025 Employment and Salary Trends Market Report, which you saw on the ad there. And now's a great time to be able to keep your finger on the pulse with what's happening and seeing the changes, and also looking back to see how these trends have changed over the last 5 years or so. Now, one of the things that we're looking at is what is the top priority for Kiwi employees in 2025. So according to the market report, the #1 priority this year is work-life balance. So with 74% of respondents listing it as a top consideration. Rounding out the other top 3 are career opportunities and, of course, job security, both sitting at 70%. Now, work-life balance has consistently been in the top 5 retention drivers over the past 5 years. I was surprised to see it take over the top spot, particularly over job security this year, especially after such a turbulent year in the employment market. But actually, I see this as a really positive shift. So it suggests that kai mahi absolutely value stability, but they're also focused on growth, both professionally and personally. So it's not just about having a job, it's about having a job that aligns with your life. It feels like people are saying, right, I've survived to 25, I've done it. Now it's time to look after myself and make sure my career is moving forward and that it fits with the life that I want to lead. And honestly, that sounds like a healthy evolution of how we think about work. So if you want to look at your career options or are thinking, okay, it's not quite hitting the mark in terms of work-life balance, take a look at some of our latest job opportunities presented by the 2025 Q1 HR Mashup. Okay, and as always, feel free to reach out to our teams in Auckland and Wellington to find out more about those opportunities and the other ones coming through. It's been a big week for jobs this week, with new opportunities coming through to both offices. Okay, now that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining us again. As always, we'd love to hear your comments. What's your take on the latest trends? Do you agree? Do you have something to add there? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And see you back here next week.